Time for another episode, maybe I'm rambling. Russian forces are massing on Ukraine's border. Bluff or not, Putin is playing with fire. Oh boy, sure those boys at it again. For an army given to masking its moves, surely the worst way to disguise a potential imminent invasion of a country is overtly preparing for it. This is the paradox around Russia's visible buildup in the west, not far from Ukrainian border, where Moscow is trying to reverse the military statement around the Donbas separatist region that is shutting came from Ukraine in 2014. We don't want to telegraph its moves so blatantly. Russia's signals are obvious. Relentless social media videos show armored convoys moving towards Jivon border area. These led to open source intelligence sleuths spying a congregation of likely hundreds of vehicles not far from Russian city of Voronezh. That's still over 100 miles from Ukraine, but is a sizable buildup that was captured on satellite images from Microsoft Technology Group. The White House said this week that Russia now has more troops near the Ukrainian border than any time since 2014, when the peninsula of Crimea was annexed. Further south, military intelligence reports have assessed that some 4,000 heavily armed Russian forces have been seen moving in Crimea, a U.S. defense official told CNN. Moscow is also talking the game. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu has announced snap readiness inspections for the army. The Kremlin's envoy to the conflict, Deputy Head of the Presidential Administration, Dmitry Kozik, said that Moscow would, as he had pretty much have always been implied, come to the defense of Ukraine's eastern population if needed. He said the start of a conflict would be the beginning of the end of the Ukraine. Russian declarations are pretty noisy. For Ukraine's part, President Volodymyr Zelensky has moved some units closer to the Donbas and took a very high-profile trip to the area Thursday, like Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Zelensky's domestic ratings are not that healthy. He talked the language of peace. He tried to be closer to troops, or the U.S. President Joe Biden said he will stand by him. The White House said it is increasingly concerned about the recent escalated Russian aggressions in eastern Ukraine, and U.S. officials have also hinted that they may send warships to the Black Sea, a signal of increased involvement, even though American aircraft has regularly been monitoring the area. German Chancellor Angela Merkel asked Putin to pull his forces back during a call on Thursday. Everyone is getting very excitable very fast. Speculations about what comes next is the biggest land war in Europe in 2 decades is rife, as the Kremlin surely hoped it would be. Meanwhile, so-called so far is a fuel bill moving a lot of tanks around. The key as yet unanswered question is what Russia's objectives will be in the military intervention. Some analysts have speculated it might flood the separatist areas and agitated conflict zones with huge Russian peacekeeping force designed to impose its will and rules in the area, effectively annexing the Donbas in earnest. Yet this will almost guarantee a Russian response, likely at first the fall of sanctions. It also achieve for Moscow essentially the same control it has now in these areas, albeit with a lot of expensive Russian skin and hardware in the game. It's all the squeeze, but down the juice, and so probably not favorable to the Kremlin. The Ukrainian servicemen use a periscope. The second option floated by analysts involves the creation of a land corridor between separatist Donbas in the east and Crimea, the annexed peninsula to the south of Ukraine. For years, water has been a scarce resource in Crimea. A crisis with senior Ukrainian official warned me 2 years ago could reach a critical stage in the summer of 2019. It still persists, along with the broader chance for Moscow of maintaining a possible standard of life in Crimea through sea supplies and over a small new bridge as made across the Kerch Strait. It is not a sustainable state of affairs for Russia's latest acquisition in the long term. But a land corridor, a strip running through the Ukrainian town of Mariupol, and to the Arminsk area above Crimea will also be extremely vulnerable for an occupying Russian force. They will be caught between the Azov Sea and a very angry, better equipped than before Ukrainian army. To hold that corridor effectively, they have to push deeper into Ukraine, then facing yet more resistance from the Ukrainian army and the local population. Long gone is the hope from 2014 Russian soldiers would be seen as liberators from the corrupt Kiev government. Hostility is much more palpable. So the task ahead of the Russian army is either do so little that the inevitable Russian sanctions seem imposed for minimum gain, or do so much, way too much, if you have to occupy large swaths of Ukraine for years. It's best both ways. In Moscow's eyes, then, perhaps much better option is to mass its forces, make loud noises about Ukraine's desire for war, hint at diplomacy. It uses heavy metal glove hand across the board to force a better negotiated solution. This of course presumes the Kremlin head is also making the best decisions. Putin is also capable of overreach or folly. Concert. Jeez. A third invasion of Ukraine in 2021 is also a much more dangerous gamble for Putin than the one he took in 2014 to 15. U.S. President Biden has made it clear he will offer unwavering support to Kyiv. Washington's mindset is irrevocably hardened to the idea that Russia is a threat, and the Ukrainian leader Zelensky, a political and military experienced as he is, will doubtless benefit domestically from dragging the conflict he hasn't started. Yet two enduring unquantifiable risks remain. The first, that Putin may see among all the chaos next few weeks a moment of opportunity to strike and simply decide to deal with the consequences later. The second is the most inevitable peril of amassing angry forces on both sides of it already active front line. An unanticipated error or surge of either party could spiral into a bigger war. And Moscow hopes this build-up means its phone will start ringing more frequently, and diplomacy takes over, then it'll better happen soon. Oh boy, Putin's starting some mess. Putin is Putin. Well, that's it for me being rambling. Have a nice day, y'all.